Who is the manliest man on the Tennis podcast?
That's of all the questions asked, that's the one that's been stuck in your craw that you're ready to dig into the most.
We are going to answer this and dozens more questions today on the show. My name is Nick, and I'm joined by ...
Brandon, exclamation point.
Brandon, the sidekick host.
Yeah.
No exclamation points for you. And this is the show where normally our asks cover top 10 lists on anything and everything. And if you want some of that, just go to almost any other episode. But today we're going to be answering questions that have been sent in by our listeners.
Correct.
Is that fair? Did I say anything incorrect or surprising to you?
No, I was fully prepared for this. In fact, I'm looking at some of the questions in front of me right now.
Yes. Real quick before we get started, I want to give a special shout out to our Patreon members. They're listening right now, early and ad-free to this episode. No ball shaving ads for them. And you can join them for just $2 a month at patreon.com/tennispod. And if you join now, you can also get this weekend's new Patreon-only bonus episode where I quiz Brandon and get him on his Star Wars knowledge. He's not quite as...
Get him.
He's not quite the Star Wars expert he thinks he is.
We should also do the Patreon members' questions first.
Well, I have these in a very particular order.
Oh, so we won't do that.
Well, here's the deal. We did collect questions from a number of places, including Patreon, and we don't have enough time to get to every question that was submitted, but we are going to 100% get every Patreon question. How's that?
Yes.
That's fair, right?
That's totally fair.
All right. So in addition to Patreon, we also collected questions from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can follow us on all those at TennisPod if you want to get in on the next Q&A episode. And so we have a couple dozen questions. I tried to sort them in a way to where kind of themes stick together. So Brandon and I have both seen these questions. We've had, we've seen them. We've read through all of them. That said, I personally have not taken any notes on what I'm going to answer. I don't know if you have.
I thought about some of these. I thought about thought through my answers on some of these.
Okay, good. I haven't.
I've done my homework, and you have not.
Well, I guess it's only fair since I usually do the homework on every other episode, and you usually do the bare minimum. All right, let's do it. Q&A. First one comes from Hipster Doofus on Twitter. That's our friend Polly in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
What positives do you think have come out of coronavirus/COVID? Do you think, quote, normality will be possible at all once we get past it? How long do you think it will be until America records 0 deaths from COVID? Brandon, you are our COVID expert. I'm going to let you take this one first.
Well, fortunately, I am both an epidemiologist, I don't even know if I've said it right, and a public health expert.
Yes.
So Hipster Doofus has asked the right person the right question. So what positives do I think would come out of coronavirus? I do think there's probably some great art being created right now that we have yet to see, whether it's music or writing or whatever. I think there's probably some really great stuff being created right now. I'm sure that we have a better...
Etch-a-sketch art?
What's that?
Etch-a-sketch art?
I could never draw anything on an Etch-a-sketch. When I see someone that has done something almost photorealistic or at least extremely detailed, like a high quality image, and they did it on an Etch-a-sketch, that seems like sorcery to me.
I've seen Etch-a-sketches where, other than the color, if I saw it, I would legit think it was a photograph.
Yeah, and I use an Etch-a-sketch for about 20 seconds, and I'm not convinced that I remember which one's left and right.
Well, so about COVID, though.
Yeah, so about COVID.
I'll tell you a positive.
Yeah.
A potential positive. Although, as I say this, I think it's already kind of starting to go away. But for a while, I was thinking that we would get to a place where wearing masks and gloves at restaurants would become just kind of an accepted norm. But probably not actually going to happen now that I say it.
We live in Oklahoma where restaurants have are still seating people right next to each other and farting into your soup and
the Oklahoma tradition.
Yeah, just carrying on like normal here.
Yeah. But in some places, I don't know. I am an advocate of masks just being a thing if you are in a kitchen. But I know there's probably some people in kitchens right now that don't want that. That want
to hold you down against the grill.
Yeah. That's fine.
So do we think that things will be normal again? Is normal possible again once we get past it?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it depends on your definition.
I don't know. It's going to be like, even after, God, no, man, I can't even imagine how long it's going to be since we get past that, because like it takes a fucking long, it's not like everyone goes and gets vaccinated, over Labor Day weekend or something, or Memorial Day weekend, and then we're partying all summer. I think it takes it could be another year or two until everybody's been vaccinated. It might take multiple rounds, and then like you still have to maintain. So I don't know. I'd say maybe in like 5 years, things might feel like close to normal again, but man, some shit's never going to be the same. The movie theater industry, I don't know if it could ever come back like it was before. That might also be a good thing.
AMC Theaters is the largest, if not the world, then at least America, the largest theater chain. And they've said they're going to be out of money next year. I think movie theaters will go out of business.
Yeah,
and
AMC had a 90% drop in profit.
I'm actually surprised it wasn't more. I think movie theaters will kind of be a thing of the past. I think they will return someday. I don't think like they're gone forever, but I do think they're gone for now.
I like the experience of going and seeing. There's certain movies that I feel like I have to go see it on a big screen at the theater.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
No. The last movie that I remember, like just off the top of my head, that I went to like by myself because I wanted to see it was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I think that was a couple years ago.
That's good.
But I don't know, some good changes are coming, like the new Wonder Woman movie, Wonder Woman 1984. They kept changing the date that they were going to release it. Mm-hmm. And I read today that it's going to be released, in whatever theaters are theating on Christmas Day, and at the same time at no extra charge on HBO Max, which I think is awesome. And
let me ask you this. Well, actually, before that, one quick point on if things will get back to normal once we get past COVID. I think besides the obvious like health things that may or may not get back to normal, there's also just at least in America, there's just the division in this country, which is not all COVID. It's political. But COVID is a lot of it, like the masking, anti-masking, which, by the way, stupid fucking is of all the things that take a stand on in the world. Anyway, I just think this country is more divided than it feels like it's ever been, or at least since the Civil War. And I don't know if that will ever be good again.
Yeah. I mean, I know for a fact there's people who feel so strongly about not wearing a mask that they like scream and throw fits and get arrested at Costco or fight people in public and stuff. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm starting to get so angry about people who still flagrantly don't give a fuck about wearing a mask that like I'm ready to like grab a can of peas off the shelf at the grocery store and whip it at the back of their head. I guess what I don't get is like, I totally understand that you don't want to, because I don't want to either. I don't like, smelling my mouth and like having to remember this thing and having to wash all these little masks. And like, I don't like doing any of it. Nobody who does it, I think, enjoys it. What I don't understand is like, why is it such a big deal to you? Why are you such a puss that this is such a big deal? I think it's almost inarguably not a big deal. And
and even if you personally don't believe it, which, by the way, you're an idiot for not believing it because it's proven by science, but let's say that you don't believe it, then still just wear the mask anyway out of courtesy for other people that
like
feel more comfortable. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get
people on the right. Yeah, all right, let's just stop. We've made our point. One other question. Do you think the 2021 football season, the one that starts August 2021, NFL I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Will there be full football stadiums?
Oh, God.
If you had a gun to your head and you had to pick yes or no.
Yes, I'm going to say yes, because there almost were full football stadiums this year before any vaccines came out. I don't think people
Aren't they like 30%?
Yeah, but I mean, trust me, if they could have gotten away with it, some schools would have fucking done it. And
yeah, you're not wrong.
Next year, if there's a vaccine released, it doesn't matter if it's a vaccine in which you need 2 rounds and we have to guarantee that everyone's taken both rounds and like, wait a certain amount of time and still maintain distancing and shit. I don't care what happens. If a vaccine is released in 2021, everybody who doesn't believe in any of the science now is going to use the fact that a vaccine was released to do whatever the fuck they want to do, including packed stadiums full of like 80,000 people.
Well said. I think you put a period on it. Let's move on. The next question comes from Unsung Horrors on Instagram, And by the way, this is one of my favorite horror podcasts. They cover lesser-known horror films, including some very obscure ones. It's a great show.
That sounds cool. I'll check them out.
Unsung Horrors asked if you could run over anyone with the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile without consequence. Now that's key. Who would it be?
Doesn't the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, if you honk the horn, it plays like the Oscar Mayer classic jingle through the horn?
How's the jingle go? I don't know how it goes.
You really don't?
No.
My baloney has a first name. It's Oscar.
Oh, that.
Yeah. It's Oscar Mayer.
Did you see the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile was literally in Tulsa like a week ago?
Yeah, I think I did notice that somewhere, but I missed it.
Because you were standing in fucking line, weren't you?
I was driving it. I stole it. So I'm trying to think. Honestly, to me, it makes a difference if the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile horn plays that song when you beep it. Then I would judge who I want to run over by how funny it would be.
Okay.
But if it doesn't play that song, then I want to pick who I would run over by how awesome it would be to run over them without consequences.
Rudy Giuliani is the one for me today.
As of this recording,
yeah, well,
he's been on a fucking hot streak.
just wait for him to think he's going to get lucky with a young reporter on camera, and then he'll lay down to untuck his microphone cord. And when he does that, he's vulnerable to be run over by your Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
I always have to tug on the base of the shaft of my penis when I tuck my shirt in. Well, I didn't know there was another way to do it. I thought when you tucked your shirt in, you actually wrapped it around and tied it around your dick to make sure it stayed tucked in.
But you have to lay down first and look down at it while you're doing it and like grunt.
With the world's biggest fucking glasses on. He looks like, what's that fucking...
And his hair dye dripping in his sweat.
Yeah. So who would I run over?
We're going to talk more about him today, so don't worry.
Who would I run over? I mean...
Let's say it does make the sound, the jingle.
Who? Ellen.
Ellen?
Yeah. That would be hilarious.
You can't do Ellen.
Why not?
I mean... You're right. There's no consequence, so I guess you could.
Yeah, there's no consequence.
How about Dr. Phil, though?
But I don't want him to die. He's entertaining.
No.
I don't want Dr. Phil to perish. Well, also, you don't know that is it a guarantee that if you get run over the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, you would die? It's the
By
size
the world's
of a bus.
giant a limo-sized, bus-sized hot dog on wheels? Yes, you'll die. Or at least you'll break your legs, and when they take the casts off months later, your legs have turned into giant hot dogs.
I'm going to eat my way out of this problem.
I'm sticking with Rudy.
I'm sticking with Ellen.
Okay. Fucking weird. But all right. The next question comes from our Patreon member, Isaac, who asks, as a British person who wants to visit America one day, I'd recommend against it these days.
Oh, Isaac, you sweet summer child.
He asks, which state should I consider visiting, and is there any I should avoid?
Okay.
The answer is yes to that last one. Avoid Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid...
You're not missing anything in Oklahoma.
Basically, just stick to New York and California. And Washington.
So let's see. Well, I'm going to try to give this some thought. I think everyone who visits America should visit New York City.
Mm-hmm. Get a New York slice at Sparrow.
Yeah, I think you should visit New England, like maybe Vermont. I think Vermont, somewhere up in the Northeast, would be good, especially in the fall.
When the leaves are changing, yes.
Right. You should visit Texas.
No, why?
Well, Austin. Go to Austin, Texas. There's barbecue, there's music, there's cowboy
No, here's
shit.
where you should go, Isaac. Go to Amarillo, Texas, and along the highway, there's a restaurant where if you eat a 72-ounce steak, you get it for free. That's where you should go.
My dad has been to that restaurant multiple times on business trips.
Has he eaten the 72-ounce steak?
He's not, but I think he's been with people who have tried.
72 ounces. How many pounds is that?
72 ounces? That's...
Yeah. How many ounces in a pound? 16?
72 divided by 16. 4.5
pounds.
Yeah. The old 96er.
Okay, I'll tell you somewhere, Isaac. So first of all, Washington State's
Colorado.
one of my favorite states, Colorado, and also somewhere I was just recently, the like the mountains in Utah, Arizona, Southwest area.
Yes, I love the desert.
Are worth going to.
The Southwest and the desert. If you have the time, I know that the trip to go from like San Diego and to drive up the Pacific Coast Highway
Yes.
to like Northern California to like Big Sur would be an awesome drive. You'd see a lot of cool stuff. And Isaac from England or Britain, what's the difference between England and Britain? Great Britain is...
The difference just depends on how much of a snob you are when you're talking about it.
Isaac, also try to visit some of our national parks.
Yeah.
Listen up, fellas. Today we got a new Manscaped product alert. Manscaped has just released the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. If you take a look in the mirror, I guarantee you're going to see hair sticking out of your nose hole, out of your ear holes. And Manscaped has done the research. They've polled men's partners, and 79% of them admitted that a long nose hair is a disgusting, disgraceful, major turnoff. What are you doing with yourself? Get your shit together. It's time to keep your ear and nose hair looking as clean and nice as your pubes have been looking, thanks to Manscaped. It's forever changing the grooming game with this Weed Whacker. Provides proprietary skin-safe technology. Helps keep your nose and ear hair safe from nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate little holes. It's got an intelligent contoured design. It's waterproof. Makes it easy to operate and clean. It's got a powerful rechargeable lithium-ion battery that lasts up for 90 minutes of nose and ear hair whacking time. That's more than any other nose hair trimmer on the market. You definitely want to use a nose hair trimmer as opposed to plucking out a nose hair unless you're trying to fake emotion. It's very effective to pluck a nose hair and then bring tears to your eyes, and you can tell everyone that you have feelings. You'll get a replaceable blade every 3 months to keep your weed whacking time clean and enjoyable. So it's time to upgrade your Manscaped routine with this Weed Whacker. You get 20% off plus free shipping with the code TENISH. That's 10ISH at manscaped.com. Thanks, Manscaped, for keeping our pubes trimmed and our hairs and our holes all looking nice. Again, you get 20% off and free shipping with the code TENISH, 10ISH at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use that promo code TENISH. What are you waiting for? Go whack those weeds.
So the next few questions are about us and our show. And we're going to start with Ewan from Patreon. How did you guys meet?
Gas station bathroom.
I found his number on a phone stall. Or on a bathroom stall.
We worked together at two different places, but the first place we worked together, I moved departments and we started working together. And within like a day or two, I think we realized that we hated the same kind of people. And we're like, yeah, we could hang out.
Brandon was actually my boss for a bit, as recently as this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you were to ask anyone that knew us both, they knew who the real boss was. Am I right?
The boss of my butt.
All right, next one comes from our good friends at the LA Not So Confidential podcast, one of the best true crime podcasts out there. I mean that sincerely.
Yep.
They asked on Twitter, please describe the high school versions of yourselves.
I did give
Brandon, you probably had a lot of time to reflect on the horse and buggy to and from high school.
Yeah.
So
I had one of those Amish page boy haircuts. We just put a ball over it and then used like sheep shears around my head.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. God, I was really into the Beastie Boys, but that was the only decent taste I had in music in high school. Let's see.
Is that it? You done?
God, I don't know.
Okay, think about like The Breakfast Club. You've seen that movie, right?
Who would I be more like?
Yeah, if you had to be one of those people.
Yeah, I'd be Brian. And so would you.
Brian, is that the...
If you say Bender, you're so full of shit.
No, I would never be Bender.
Yeah, Brian is Michael Anthony Hall, the nerd.
I think I was actually a mix of Brian and Bender. And not that I was cool like Bender, but I was...
A punk?
I was a punk, and I did clash with authority quite a bit. I think I've told this story on the show before, maybe a past Q&A episode, but the quick version is, as an example, I did get... There was a teacher that everyone hated in 9th grade, and openly mocked him for being short and put a high chair in his desk chair one day. But he was a jerk. He deserved it, believe me. I won't get into it. But anyway, one time he threw a desk at me, and another time he ordered me to write a 3-page report. When I brought the 3-page report back, he was gone, and we convinced the sub that, he has us read the 3-page report at the front of the class, which was not true. So I went up and read it, and the entire report was just talking shit about the teacher who was not there to defend himself. So
wait, so you were going to hand it in to him too?
I did hand it him.
Oh.
I handed it to the sub, and she handed it in to the teacher.
How did that go?
I don't remember anything really coming of it, but I gave the 3-page report to someone to read earlier, and they made copies and distributed it throughout school. So it was...
Oh, man. Anytime someone's making copies for something at school and they're not a teacher, it's trouble.
Yeah. So looking back, I am pretty amazed that I made it through there. I remember he would send me to the principal's office probably once a week, but he'd always forget that it was the principal's lunch break, so he would never be there. And then and I would just come back.
This guy sounds like a doofus.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that is one of many examples I could point to where I was an asshole to teachers like that. So that's the Bender in me, but the Brian in me is definitely I don't know. How am I Brian, Brandon?
I don't know. It's like almost like if you weren't like the bad kid and you weren't a jock, definitely wasn't the popular girl who could put lipstick on with her cleavage.
Let's agree that neither of us are the cool, popular, hot girl.
Actually, I was probably more Carl the janitor.
Yeah, and you smelled a lot more like him, too. I'm going to move us on. The Coolness Chronicles podcast on Twitter asked, what is the most frustrating aspect of podcasting and what is the most rewarding?
It's frustrating to not have like much sense of like who is listening and what they like unless they specifically, like respond to like a survey or a question or send us feedback. So I don't know. I just wish there was more interaction because I feel like I talk a lot and I would love to listen more.
Can confirm.
But I would love to listen more to like what other people think about our lists or ideas or things we should do or things we should not do.
Mm-hmm.
Although we did have someone write in and say not to mention politics, and I told him to kiss my ass. But I mean,
it's true. That was the littlest cowboy, remember?
Yeah, but basically anything that's more constructive than that.
To sum it all up, you wish you had more insight into the other side, into the earphone side of our show.
Yeah, I feel like I'd send a lot of words out into the ether, and I don't hear much back.
I think that's a good one. I would say probably what any young podcaster out there would say, which is it's just, the amount of time we've put into this show, years now, a lot of work. There's a lot of work that goes into a podcast. And don't get me wrong, Tennis Pod has grown more than I ever thought it would, and it's still growing. And I love that. But I wish it was more. You're never satisfied.
But what's the most rewarding? The yucks?
It's the listener feedback.
Yeah.
It's like the other side of what you were saying is the most frustrating.
Yeah, it is those little bits of feedback that you get that are rewarding, plus the yucks.
Yeah, plus the yucks. And plus the learning. And we do encourage you to let us know, good or bad, what you think of the show. Hit us up on Twitter. Okay, so the next question is from a podcast about something on Twitter. They asked, what's the longest amount of time that either of you have spent researching for a list? And which list was the shortest amount of time?
In total hours, probably like 7 or 8 over the course of several days.
Do you know what list that was?
Some of the history ones, and the president ones, and the plagues.
I did one in the 60s, I think, like episode 60 something that was the most viewed Wikipedia pages for historical figures. It was like Aristotle, people like that.
Mm-hmm.
That one I put a lot of time into. Also, the history. So I did the most influential women in history fairly recently. Yeah, I agree. The history ones are what takes the most time. And it's because there's so much information out there about every entry
I think it's also because we are both actually interested in that information too.
Yeah.
In the shortest amount of time, like 4 minutes.
So the most recent episode was the adjectives that I brought. And I can tell you I spent very little time on that list. But it's because what are you going to do? Like, once you put the word down, there's only so much you can do.
That's how I felt about it.
Yeah. So yeah, but I like to have a mix like that. Some episodes that are heavier, like the history and the true crime. True crime's another one I spend a lot of time on. So I like to have a mix of those, and then some the lighter ones that are like the adjectives, or what's another one like that?
Costumes,
right?
Halloween costumes.
Yeah. Okay, so Bad Bitches Podcast on Twitter wants to know, has Brandon or Nick ever surprised you with their knowledge of a top 10 list? So in other words, Brandon, have I ever surprised you?
With your amount of knowledge or lack of?
It just says with their knowledge.
Your lack of female country music stars. Did
that really surprise you?
No,
Because I'd be surprised if that surprised you.
That didn't really surprise me.
I'll bet you were surprised at how much I knew about sports.
When was that?
Which wasn't much, but it was probably more than you thought.
It probably was more than I thought.
Or Star Wars. Give me some credit.
Yeah, for Star Wars, you did know. In fact, I think you said in that episode, you actually knew most of those answers too, as a testament.
Oh, on the Patreon bonus episode, right?
Yeah, as a testament to how they were low-hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Let me just look at our episodes here.
You do pretty good every time we talk about murder.
Yeah. I was surprised in myself that I didn't do better on the most brutal dictators.
Well, some of them are hard. Wasn't General Butt Naked on there?
He's on my personal one for sure.
No, was he?
No.
You don't.
General Butt Naked, who's that?
Oh, dude, you're gonna love this guy. Hold on, let me look him up. Joshua Milton Blahy, better known by his nom de guerre, General Butt Naked. That's General and then B-U-T-T and then Naked, is a former commander of forces under the wider control of the Liberian warlord Roosevelt Johnson. He's known for his violence and atrocities during the First Liberian Civil War in the early 1990s. He was once described as the most evil man of the world. He said in 2008 that he had killed at least 20,000 people and carried out irregular human sacrifice and cannibalism of children.
God.
What a cute name. And then a horrible, horrible, disgusting man.
This guy is new to me. He was not on that list, but now I'm going to save this tab and look at this later. Okay. So we've both surprised and not surprised each other with our list.
Yeah.
So why don't we go on to Julie from Patreon, who asks, which topic were you given that you felt was most out of your depth? She has some follow-ups too, but let's start with that. Which topic were you most out of your depth? And let's focus on a list that you brought, and then I'll bring one for me.
I've never really researched one of something that I wasn't at least vaguely familiar with, I don't think.
I felt a little out of my depth on the most influential women.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't come into it thinking it would be that way, but I think it was because so many of the women were from other countries that I wasn't super familiar with, you know? So
we both have a lot of trouble with pronunciation.
Yeah.
I must not be very adventurous because I can't think of one that I've done where I felt out of my depth in researching it. But in ones that I've guessed...
You did great on the porn one.
Yeah, I was pretty good at that.
I felt out of my depth on the top country music stars.
Deadliest national parks was surprisingly difficult.
I realized I love Arnold, but I realized in our Arnold episode, which was 75, I haven't seen that many of his movies, actually.
You've just seen Jingle All the Way like 94 times.
Mm-hmm. Most popular Christmas carols, you didn't do well because you still haven't sang Santa Baby.
I would call that a win for me.
Okay, so Julie also asked, which list made you roll your eyes the most?
I know there's some of these where I was like, that just seems like bullshit. Oh, most downloaded mobile games.
Yeah.
I know that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That one gave me some, that one hurt my, what are the muscles in your eyes? That one hurt my retinas.
I don't think retinas are muscles.
Retina's not a muscle. Yeah, don't start, I said feedback earlier, don't give me a bunch of feedback that tells me all the shit that I got wrong.
Greatest music albums of all time, the Rolling Stone list. That one made me roll my eyes quite a bit. Oh, and one that I know we both roll our eyes at is the Halloween costumes every year. Because we've done that list 3 times now, and every time we can't believe
You get pissed off, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and Julie just finishes with any favorites. So any one or two that stand out as the ones you enjoyed most.
I love doing the ones about the actors that I like. So the Jack Nicholson and Arnold,
Sam Jackson,
and Samuel L. Jackson ones. I love a chance to like dive into someone that I like their stuff. I mean, that was the whole reason I did the female country music stars, was I had an excuse to talk about Dolly Parton.
Mm-hmm. I love the true crime, so serial killers, but I also love like the creepy and paranormal stuff, so like the cryptids and the aliens and UFOs. Those are the ones that get my fucking
Careful.
creative PP hard. Okay, next one from Welcome to the Neighborhood on Twitter. What is something you're looking forward to covering in the future? So don't tell me anything you're going to do like right away, but maybe something you've kind of thought about for down the road that you're kind of hanging on to.
Welcome to the neighborhood. You are supposing that I think more than 2 or 3 days into the future. I am playing it minute by minute over here, but...
okay, surely you've come across something and you're like, oh, we should do more lists on that or on this.
I'd love doing lists on presidents or other, familiar historical figures, especially things like presidents. There's 46 of them, so there's lots of different ways that you can...
45.
What?
45 presidents, sir.
Oh, there's 45, yeah. There's 45 of them, and there's all kinds of information that you can like sort them by in order to create a list. So I'll probably try to do something like that. It may not be presidents again, but definitely more. I'm going to come back to historical figures, and whether Nick likes it or not, I'll probably find a way to come back to Star Wars at some point too.
I have a bunch of movie list ideas as well as movie stars. I know I'm going to do Tom Cruise at some point because we talk about Tom Cruise.
Are you
and
going to do a list
John
on him
Travolta
too, or is that just a make-a-wish that you've put out there?
Either way, whichever one of us does it first. But Tom Cruise and John Travolta are 2 guys we talk about quite a bit, and we've never done a list on them.
Oh, John Travolta is another one to do movies with too, because he's got a ton of them to choose from, and they're all over the map. I want to know where Look Who's Talking To falls in his top 10.
It's not. It doesn't. So yeah, and there's some World War stuff I've been hanging on to as well. And also some, I mentioned creepy paranormal. I got a few ideas on that too, so stay tuned.
He's just full of ideas.
It's better than being full of piss and vinegar like you. The Weird Distractions podcast, who we plugged here recently, that's a great little true crime pod. They asked on Twitter, what episode was the hardest to record content-wise? So let's take that to mean like, to me, that's like the true crime, right? Basically. Like some of the serial killer cult stuff.
Oh, like trying to talk about it and then like also make a joke about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably why I haven't done my like top 10 like child abusers list.
No. It's funny, and I'm serious. At one point I thought, I didn't get too far, but I was thinking about it, and I said, I'm going to do like the most deadly school shootings or something.
Yeah,
and then I
about
stopped.
that.
Right after I said it, I was like, that's not in good taste. I can't do that.
I've thought about that before too, I mean, it is something that you can quantify, and unfortunately, in the last like 20-something years.
Oh, I know. Believe me, I do not take glee in the fact that we can do a list, but there's so many now.
It would be weird for you to say like, to say the name of one, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Or, oh, I didn't know they had so many. Oh, I forgot about all those kids that were murdered in the cafeteria. Yeah, can't do that.
Well, they're all conspiracy theories anyway. None of them actually happened, Brandon, you fucking liberal.
Oh, God.
All right. Podcast about something. This is the question I opened the show with. Who is the more manly between the two of us?
Mm-hmm. Well, how are we going to define manly?
Listen, I'll just tell you, it's Brandon. Brandon's way manlier than me because
this sucks. This is the one I put all the research into, coming up with this list, and then I did realize.
I'll tell you why.
Well, I did realize today too when I was thinking about this. I was like, he's not going to claim to be the more manly one, so like, what am I wasting all my time for? But I came up with a bunch
You made fun of me when I
a lot of points.
You made fun of me when I started the show, being like, "That's the question you thought about asking."
No, it's because the one I was thinking about.
The truth is, neither one of us give a shit about being manly.
No, well, because then I had to define it by like, okay, there are these things that you would say are stereotypically manly, which I don't necessarily say mean that you're a man. And then if you go by those things, it would be me, because I've watched more sports. I like to drink beer.
Mm-hmm.
I've like shot guns.
You spit and chew tobacco.
Yeah. I have put dip in my mouth before. I would never say that I was like a dipper. I've done it like a couple times, enough to know like this is gross. It's not worth the mild buzz.
And if either of us were more likely to own a pickup truck, it would definitely be you.
Yeah, although I don't want to get a pickup truck.
I know. But can you ever picture me driving a pickup truck ever?
No, it'd be I'd be like, why are you borrowing that from someone? Do you have to move your doll collection?
So yeah, Brandon's manlier. So did you have any research that you wanted to share about this question?
Well, so the few things I pointed out earlier, but like I said, I struggled with all this stuff. Like, okay, well, are we talking about stereotypically manly stuff? And then I was trying to think of manly stuff that you do that I could like put back on me.
Okay.
You are able to grow a better beard.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Like a thicker, fuller beard.
Big time, yeah.
Think you have probably more tattoos than me.
I have 3. No, I have 4. How many do you have?
2.
Is tattoo a manly thing?
Well, I guess like...
I guess it means I can stand pain more than you.
If sorority chicks get them on their ass, like, nah, that's never mind. It's not manly. I take that one back. But
I did use my manly semen to birth 2 children.
Oh, that's true.
So that's manly.
Another one when I was thinking of like points in my manly favor, I thought I don't think you own or ever wear boots, right?
No, not once.
And I do. That's also something that women and extremely effeminate men really like boots.
Do you really wear boots?
Yeah, sometimes. Not like
cowboy boots?
Yeah, because they're easy to pull
Brandon,
off.
what the fuck? This is new to me.
I had them before too. I didn't have as much like to wear them with because we were going to work like in person, and I was wearing like khakis and shit. But yeah, they're easy to put on in the winter, and I haven't been able to wear them in a while because bootcut jeans were like not in style. And my wife told me like a couple months ago, she mentioned offhand that bootcut jeans were coming back, and I like had flashbacks to 1996. And like my Mossimo shirts and Doc Martens and stuff. And I was like, fucking bootcut jeans are back. This is my time to shine.
So I think we've determined you're manlier than I am, but I'm smarter and have better taste than you.
I don't know about taste.
2020 has sucked, and it's reshaped the way we work and how we work. Businesses across the globe are challenged to be their most efficient, which means every hire is critical. And luckily, Indeed is here to help. Indeed is the #1 job site in the world with more total visits than any other job site, according to ComScore. And Indeed also helps you find quality candidates quickly, so you can focus on hiring the person you need to keep your business a-running. And unlike other sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. That means you only pay for what you need, and you can pause your account anytime. And best of all, there are no long-term contracts. And now, Indeed's newest way of matching you with candidates instantly delivers a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria that you can contact the moment you sponsor a job, making Indeed the only job site that can move as fast as you do. And that's why more than 3 billion businesses worldwide use Indeed for hiring. And right now, Indeed is offering Tennis Podcast listeners a free $75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it, and they'll see it fast. Try Indeed out with a free $75 credit at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. This is their best offer available anywhere. Go right now to Indeed.com/BLUEWIRE and get your free $75 credit. Offer is valid through December 31st. There are terms and conditions that do apply.
Football is back in full swing. You may not be at a game this year, but you can still be in on the action at BetOnline. There's that word again, action. Getting you all hot and bothered about BetOnline, all that action you can get. BetOnline's going the extra mile to make sure you can get in on that action with every possible chance to win this season. From game spreads and totals to team and player and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more opportunities to wager that action than anywhere else. You can get in on their season opening bonuses today and start off wagering on wins, division, and championship futures all day, every day. Scratch that action itch. Head to BetOnline today and take advantage of all those great sign-up bonuses. Don't forget, use promo code BLUEWIRE at betonline.ag. That's Blue Wire, all one word. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
At Holy_Barnacles on Instagram asks, which one of you would survive longer in a post-apocalyptic future and why?
Well,
are we living in a post-apocalyptic future? I feel like we kind of halfway are.
When we think of apocalypse, we think it's like going to happen over the course of a few days or weeks. And no, it's going to happen over decades and we're just in it.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. Do you think manliness is required to survive in a post-apocalyptic future? Because it may not be. It may be dependent on how much you're willing
to be a cockroach. Like I've said before, I think Dr. Phil, although he's much older and fatter than I am, I think he would win in a fight to the death because life is so delicious for him. He'll do anything to survive.
Life is so delicious.
And so I don't think that's me. I don't think I would survive. I mean, well, okay, I got to take care of my family. That would be
you're a millennial and you're just ready to go whenever. I'm done with this shit.
But listen, I've never shot a gun.
I don't think I told you this, but I'm now convinced I definitely would survive longer because a week before the election, when all these wackos started going out and buying ammunition, I was like, if all you right-wingers going to go out and buy a bunch of people killing ammunition, I'm going to make sure somebody on the other side's got some. So I went and got some buckshot and some slugs. And yeah, I guess I'm armed.
So we answered the last two questions with that last statement you said. You could have just said that from the top and we'd be done. Brandon owns a gun and owns ammo, so he is more manly and he would survive in the post-apocalyptic future. Now, Brandon, let's say there was a like Walking Dead. No, not Walking Dead. Like The Stand type ending to the world so there's no zombies, but everyone's died off. And
it's almost empty except for wasn't it 0.1% of the population survived?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's bad people that accumulate because that's what happens in an apocalypse. What is your plan for you and your family? Do you kind of hunker down in your house? Do you try to make your way somewhere? Do you go to a certain part of the country to hunker down? What is your thought?
I think when the warlords take over, your duty as a man is to venture outside the safety of your home and protect your family by offering up your butt as soon as possible and say, take me instead.
Okay. Fair enough.
So you may survive longer if you're more willing to give up and have a more supple and durable butt. You may survive longer in a post-apocalyptic future than me trying to shoot their dicks off with slugs.
Did you call it a supple butt? Yeah,
if you're offering up butts in order to survive, and your butt is the butts that are most supple and the sturdiest can withstand all types of severe poundings.
God,
that's who's most likely to survive.
If people were judged based on how how resourceful their ass was, it's got a lot of meat on it, it's got some good size on it, Donald Trump, he'd have a good butt to have in a time like that.
Most old guys' butts start kind of melting and looking flat, and his is still pretty...
It is plump.
Yeah. He puts the rump in Trump.
Yeah. Well, speaking of rump, and speaking of, we've been talking about ourselves for a while here with these questions. Let's talk about ourselves a little more. You wanted feedback? Here's some. These are some podcast reviews. First one comes from Mirandum on Apple Podcasts. Stop and listen. You won't regret it. Unless you have a small child nearby that repeats everything, then possibly ditch the child and come back to it. This pod has fantastic banter with enough variance for anyone to find something that interests them. I wish I had found them sooner, but I'm thrilled to have a backlog of nearly 100 episodes, more than 100 episodes to wade through. It has the feeling of a morning radio show that has been given license to say whatever they want.
We're morning zoo guys. Ding, 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 ding.
Do you watch Parks and Rec? Or have you seen Parks and Rec?
Yeah, I have.
There's those really annoying, like, morning radio show guys.
Yeah.
They have the sound effect of me so horny every time, like. Yeah, that's us. Yeah, and I definitely well, no comment on if you want to ditch the small child and then come back to the show. You should definitely come back to the show, though. Nerdfather on Apple Podcast says, top 10 lists have been a thing long before David Letterman made them a staple of late night. And I was a bit skeptical as I approached this podcast, but holy Hannah, did these guys do a good job? Brandon and Nick doing a top 10 list is amazing because they take your basic, boring, cliche idea and breathe new life and amazing humor into it. Totally worth a listen. He called you a boring old cliche, Brandon.
What? Where did you do that?
But I have breathed new life into you.
Oh. Yeah. You gave me mouth to mouth.
Thank you for the reviews, and if you want me to read yours on a future episode, you know what to do. All right, let's do the next one.
How about I read some?
Yeah, you read the next one.
I can read some of these. So this one also comes from Hipster Doofus on Twitter. He asks, you take a medically induced nap and wake up on January 21st, 2021, which is the first day after the American presidential inauguration, right? What item or items are dominating the news headlines?
Oh my God.
The honest, definite answer is still COVID.
Yeah.
But I got to think that there's a headline around that time that is centering around where Donald Trump has, I don't want to say fled to yet, but
Do you really think that's what it's going to come to?
I do not think he is going to be at the inauguration. I don't think he's going to be in Washington, D.C. the week of the inauguration. My best guess is that he will be in Mar-a-Lago. But I think the headlines are still going to be around like where he is, what he is doing, and what his legal problems are.
So what you're saying is you don't have faith that he and his grade A legal team aren't going to crack the case and show what a rigged, stolen election this was?
No, they're ditching him like rats from a big sinking ass.
I've gotten the opposite impression. I felt like, I know some people are ditching him, but...
His attorneys are ditching him. He's basically down to Giuliani.
And that woman, what's her name, who bashed him in 2016 but is now representing him. Blonde. Anyway.
They're all blonde. He only hires blonde women.
Yeah, you're right. Including the wife he hired to be his wife. I think you pretty much nailed what the headlines will be. I think we'll be coming off we'll be in the middle of a brutal winter of COVID that is going to be probably worse than they're even predicting right now because the stupidity of America is...
It knows no bounds.
Unpredictable, yeah.
The only thing more catching than COVID is stupidity.
I think the vaccine will be right around the corner, though, by that point.
Yeah, give me some of that vaccine.
Are you going to take it?
As long as it isn't the vaccine that is aligned with Trump or any of his cronies, who I don't trust, as long as it's approved by scientists. If a scientist tells me, if Dr. Fauci says, you can take this vaccine and you should, yeah, give me that vaccine.
Yeah, we'll see.
There's I trust scientists. There's 3 types of people. There's people who are actually smart, like this Dr. Fauci guy and all kinds of other...
Like me.
There's all other kinds of scientists and public health professionals. Then there's people who are not that smart, but listen to smart people, and that makes them smart. Yeah. And then there's all the other idiots.
Yeah.
So next one comes from Thanks Janet on Instagram. Where would your campaign's last stand take place? What would be your campaign's 4 seasons total landscaping?
This is my favorite question of the day. Can you give the folks at home, for anybody out that is maybe not up to speed on all the news, what is this question inferring? So what does it mean by the...
As if to punctuate what a bunch of incompetent dopes are running the Trump thing. Was this on election day that this happened?
It might have been, either then or the day after.
Election day or the day after, the Trump campaign announced to the media that they were going to hold a press conference at the Four Seasons.
Which is an upscale hotel.
Right. Which is commonly referred to by the shortened name Four Seasons. they actually announced that their press conference was going to be half an hour late. And then half an hour later, they showed up, funnily enough, at a location that's half an hour away from Four Seasons Hotel, a landscaping business called Four Seasons Total Landscaping, situated between a crematorium and a dildo shop. And
they were literally in a little strip mall looking thing.
Yeah. And then they just act like they were doing it like it wasn't somebody's fuck up. And that they were doing it on purpose. But the best part is that somebody answered the phone call at the landscaping company and said, Four Seasons. And someone said, yes, this is blah, blah, blah with the Trump campaign. And we would love to do a press conference today at your location. And then they're like, fuck yeah, sure. That seems like a lot of eyeballs.
Is the way it worked out that someone thought they booked the Four Seasons, but they never had booked the Four Seasons, the hotel? Or is it that they had booked the hotel, but the hotel wasn't going to be ready in time, so they changed it at the last minute?
I'm unsure. I'm sure it's something, I would hope it's something less ridiculous than they called a place called Four Seasons, and it was the landscaping place.
Because for some reason they thought it would be better to make good on the tweet they sent saying Four Seasons than it would be to just find a new location.
Right. Or even go, like, why does it have to be at a place, like, at a place? Why couldn't it just be, like, why couldn't they go to, like, a public park? Or I guess it's because, like, they won't be able to hold a press conference because people are going to be going, fuck you.
It is true. This event, the press conference at Four Seasons Landscaping, and if you have not seen pictures of this, please go look it up. Seriously. This is the presidential campaign on election.
It reminds me of Clerks when Dante goes to the store and it's locked. The store isn't locked, but the big metal shutters that cover up all the windows of the store are locked down. A kid stuck gum in the lock, so he can't open it. He gets a giant, like, white sheet and uses shoe polish to write, I assure you we're open, and then just hastily hangs it up outside. That's what it reminds me of.
That's funny. But that event of the press conference at the Four Seasons Landscaping is almost underrated because so much news has happened since then. But that needs to be remembered for all of history. That was such an incredible... It's like my favorite thing that's happened in my life is seeing that.
So where would my campaign's total Four Seasons Total Landscaping be?
Taco Bell?
Staples.
Inside or the parking lot?
No, I'd announce it as I would say Staples and then tweet a picture of the Staples Center. And then I would end up at a Staples in Los Angeles.
Once you got to the Staples and you tried to make the best of it, would you go inside or out?
You got to go inside. We're going to pack, because I'm sure the tweet says something like, we're going to pack this place.
Okay, so what would mine be? I don't know. You nailed it. I can't think of a better one. So let's go to the next question.
From Crime and Theory on Twitter, what is your guilty pleasure music? And some of the suggestions they've given here could be 90s Britney, the Sound of Music soundtrack, anything unexpected that boosts your mood.
I love that Crime and Theory included 90s Britney on the suggestions because I would consider that a guilty pleasure.
Do you listen to it?
I've rediscovered 90s Britney because
you have a daughter.
My 6-year-old daughter, she loves to go tell Alexa to play songs and turn it up and dance and shit. And Oops, I Did It Again and Hit Me Baby One More Time are two of them. And I know those songs by heart because I grew up with two older sisters that blasted Britney my whole childhood. So it's like I've rediscovered and I know every word. Like even after not hearing the songs for 10, 15 years, I knew every word. So it was I love 90s Britney. But another guilty pleasure is, this didn't used to be a guilty pleasure, but I feel like these days it's guilty to admit, but I still love Michael Jackson.
Is it? Yeah, I wouldn't call that a guilty pleasure. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So what are some of yours?
I'm trying to think.
Was it me singing Shania Twain songs on the Country Stars episode?
Yeah.
Should I do it again?
No. Maybe. Oh, sometimes I still listen to Ben Folds 5 once in a while.
What was their big hit? Or one of their big hits?
Brick was their big hit. It's like a big downer song about getting an abortion. I don't really even like that song. But
cool.
But the rest of their stuff I like. I'm scrolling through my 90s alternative playlist on Spotify
Matchbox
right now.
20.
Is that your guilty pleasure?
I'm saying that's one that I like.
To be honest, like music, for me, I very rarely listen to something that I would call a guilty pleasure.
I have one. So, you know the Now CDs that are like up to like Now 82?
Now that's what I call Music 82, yeah.
Yeah. So the very first one came out in 1998. I was like 4th grade. It had Sex and Candy on it by Marcy Playground.
Uh-huh.
It had Lenny Kravitz on it with what's that song?
Are You Gonna Go My Way?
No, something about flying.
Oh, yeah, it's called Fly Away. He just talks about flying away a lot.
I like that CD. And also another one that just came up is Smash Mouth All-Star.
Okay.
These are true guilty pleasures. I'm laying it all out there for you guys.
Those are fun.
The next question comes from the Murder and Myths podcast.
Mm-hmm.
They asked if either of us are gamers. That could be board game, console, tabletop, D&D. What do you play, Brandon?
I play Xbox and Switch. And right now, I'm still playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm trying to hunt more animals.
Why?
Why what?
Don't hunt animals.
They're not real animals.
You're going to be... The video games are going to make you violent, like they always say.
Well, so far they haven't. So I'm doing that, and I got that pack of 3. There's 3 3D Mario games that came out for Switch.
Yep.
And I'm working
Mario
on
64,
that too.
Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy. Yeah, so Brandon already knows this, but I'm a big Nintendo guy. I've owned every Nintendo console, and I have the same Mario game. I would not call myself a gamer because these days I play video games like maybe once a week if I'm lucky. I do like board games. I have some game nights with friends like, once every few months. But, I would like to play games more. I just never have time because I'm editing this fucking podcast for you guys.
Same here, except I'm
He's not.
hanging out in the garage.
Hanging out in the garage?
That's where I go.
You hang out in your garage?
Yeah, that's where I go to be, that's where I go to not be by anybody else.
Julie D on Patreon wants to know, what is Brandon's favorite Sopranos episode, and how do you feel about the way Sopranos ended?
Oh, man, Julie, I'm so glad you asked this. My favorite episode is Soprano Home Movies. It is the first episode of part 2 of season 6. The Wikipedia synopsis for it: after a close call at home involving a gun charge, Tony and Carmela head to the Adirondacks for a weekend with Bobby and Janice to celebrate Tony's birthday. A game of Monopoly turns violent, and Bobby does something he thought he would never do. Phil Leotardo returns to his crew. It's just a really great episode. I love, it's got some of the best acting. It's the first time that I felt like Bobby's character had he always had depth before that, but Bobby became more of a character in the second half of the 6th season. I really liked that. I liked his character. I love the music. That last scene where he comes home after committing the murder, his first murder, comes home to the lakeside, and the song, This Magic Moment, plays, and his daughter runs up to him and up in his arms. Like, he just left murdering somebody, and he comes to this beautiful scene, and you know that it's something in him has changed. And I love that episode.
Spoilers much?
Well, it doesn't matter. I've watched it 6 times. I'm currently almost about to get to that episode again in another watch through. So, and how do I think about the way it ended? So I did not watch Sopranos when it first aired. So I was vaguely familiar with it, and then when the finale aired, I heard there was all this commotion and people were upset about it. That made me want to check it out. So I saw, it might have even been on YouTube or something. I watched the end of the series. So I knew the end of the whole series before I ever started watching it.
You idiot.
Well, it's okay. It's not a cliffhanger. It doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter. But I watched it and I didn't understand it. And I knew that there was something really deep and interesting there, and that if I watched the show, I would understand it. And so I did. That's what made me watch the show, was I saw the ending first. So I watched the whole show, and then when I finally came back to that last episode, it all made sense. I think it's incredibly clever. I think it's very obvious what happened. Julie, if you're asking what I think happened, I think Tony died. I think Tony was killed he was shot by the guy in the members only jacket. My personal theory is that the guy in the members only jacket is somehow related or familiar with the Eugene Pontecervo, who tried to leave Tony's crew at the very beginning of season 6 and couldn't leave. He wanted to retire with his wife to Florida. Tony wouldn't let him leave. Tony was even blowing him off. He wasn't a big deal to Tony. It's also showing like how Tony leaves this destruction in his path and sometimes isn't even aware of how many lives he's ruined. So by telling that Eugene that he couldn't move to Florida and that he didn't know that he dashed all of Gene's dreams and hopes. Anyway, that Gene wears a members only jacket in that episode, features prominently. That guy even kind of looks like Gene. And I also think he was probably sent by the someone with connections to the Lupertazzi family in New York. Julie, reach out to me on Twitter because I think me and you are the only people who like Sopranos in the world now.
Listen, I've not seen Sopranos. I do plan on watching it someday, but everything you just said, I don't know anything about. So I just let you go.
Those who know The Sopranos, I'm sure dug it or maybe have very different opinions. And you can also reach out to me on Twitter at SidekickHost and tell me how much you hate my opinion or what you think.
Yeah, but that's a very creative username you have for Twitter there. Where'd you come up with that?
I was given it
Is it supposed to represent something?
No, I was given it by Twitter.
Okay. Brandon, you'll have to take this one. Levi on Twitter wants to know, what are your top 3 Pornhub searches?
Elves.
Elves. Okay. So for more on porn, check out our episode 107.
Or go to Pornhub.
Anyway, whatever podcast on Twitter asks, specific to the persistent question of you both being Nick. So let's remind our listeners real quick what he's talking about here. Because there was
this isn't my thing. This is your thing.
There was a scenario that we explored recently where I said, what if Nick was actually both Nick and Brandon? And I recorded myself twice with 2 different voices and then layered them on top in one recording to make it sound like there are 2 people here, but it's really just me. That's still possible that's happening right now. Okay, so on that topic, they ask, if you were going to create an imaginary sidekick, why not one more interesting than Brandon?
That's a good point.
I wish I could answer that. But I needed an imaginary sidekick that was super subservient and...
Yeah, that's me.
Really easy to boss around and didn't get too big a head. So I needed to find someone that was kind of vulnerable and meek. And so I think I found him.
You had to groom me like a pervert.
All right, you'll have to take this one too, I think. From Terrible People Doing Terrible Things podcast on Twitter, which is the correct choice? When eating a hot dog, do you use ketchup or mustard or a combo of the 2?
Again, I haven't eaten a hot dog in a long time, but...
Well, because of the pandemic. But before the pandemic, you preferred them over a trash can.
I'd never put ketchup on a hot dog, and definitely not a combination. Just mustard.
I like ketchup.
Is it the correct choice? It just seems like what a child puts on a hot dog.
Yeah, you've given me grief over this before. But I promise you that if you were to poll 100 random hot dog eaters...
Well, it's because they're polling hot dog eaters.
Okay, but who else would you poll?
Normal people who know that mustard is far superior.
But we're not talking about like a bratwurst or something where I would agree with mustard. We're talking about... So if you were to poll 100 random people, but you can't poll anyone that never eats hot dogs. They have to eat hot dog at least every once in a while.
Right.
I'll bet the majority would say they put ketchup on it.
I doubt it. No, I don't think so.
Let us know. The Murder Myths podcast on Twitter wants to know, what is your strangest secret skill?
I can pop almost every joint on my body.
No, you don't.
What do you mean?
Don't do it.
Oh, like, don't do it into the microphone?
I know you can. I've heard it, and I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, like, I can pop, like, fingers, knuckles, all those. There's a spot, like, at the very base.
So impressive, fingers and knuckles.
Well, I'm just starting at the beginning. I can do something, push something on the very base of my thumb, almost next to my wrist, and pop it way down there. My wrist. Sometimes my elbows pop, but not on purpose. Sometimes my sternum pops.
What about your butt?
I can't pop my butt. I implant my back like nobody's business. It's incredible. From bottom of my spine all the way up to my neck. I can pop my hips, my knees, ankles, toes. I mean, you name it, I'm popping it. I think that's my safe.
Wow, you're very braggadocious about your fucking weird popping talent.
She said strangest secret skill. Oh, when else am I going to get to do that?
You just can't stop talking and going on about yourself about it. So did you want to keep going?
That was it. Those are all the joints in the body.
And not on my body. I can touch my nose with my tongue.
Gross.
I can also raise one eyebrow at a time. And that's it. Those are my only skills. Not just secret skills, but skills, period. Any skills. Ewan on Patreon wants to know, what are your hobbies?
You're listening to it.
That's what I was going to say. This podcast, recording and editing this podcast, are pretty much, that's all pretty much I do anymore.
Let's see. Doing this, hanging out in the garage.
Do you really fucking hang out in the garage?
Yeah.
I didn't know you. Is your garage like set up for hanging out?
No.
Then what do you do out there? Is there a couch at least?
No, there's a table. It's like a work table and a chair. It's like a desk light and stuff. And I'm out there, listening to music, or like I'll watch something and just fucking watch it on my phone.
Cool. We're down to our last 4. Simon on Twitter, you're dropped into the Colosseum. Not a Colosseum, the Colosseum. So we're in Rome here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fight for survival. You must choose. This is the easiest answer of the day for me. You fight 100 angry cats or 1 lion.
What is your easy answer?
100 angry cats?
Yeah, it's the 100 angry cats, because I can punt cats all day.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Even if those cats are angry, they're not going to fight you. They're going to back into a corner and growl and hiss at you.
Well, even if
even
if they were like psychologically trained to attack, right? To go against their instinct, to avoid or to like hiss and back into a corner. If they were trained to attack in the way a lion attacks, I still think like if I just ran at them, if I'm dropped in the Colosseum, am I wearing...
If you ran at me, I'd run too.
Am I wearing like Colosseum stuff, like basically a skirt and sandals?
Why not?
Yeah, I'm just going to run up to him and start kick. I'm going to kick.
Think of how mean that is.
They're going to kill
pretty little
It's
kitties.
A fight. Of course it's fucking mean. Everything I do's got to be mean. It's a fight.
But Brandon, they're little kitties. You can't do that.
I could pick one up by the tail and start using that as a weapon.
No, stop.
But this is all hypothetical.
I don't want to hear about
it.
I'm
not going to do this. But look, it's Simon has abducted me. He's transported me through history and space, dropped me into the fucking Colosseum, and now I've got to fight for, it says specifically, not for fun, for survival. If I do not fight and win these 100 against the 180 angry cats or the lion, they will kill me. So yeah, these cats are going to get real fucked up because one lion, one lion is too much. One lion is too many.
I would not want to fight the lion. But, the question is phrased, you're dropped into the Colosseum.
From what height?
I can't help but think of like big Mickey Mouse hands in like a video game that's picking you up by the back of the shirt, picking you up and then dropping you inside the Colosseum.
I fucking break my leg falling in and then I just get swarmed by cats. That's the last you see of me, just being absorbed in a sea of cats.
They wouldn't be fighting you, though. Cats don't fight like that. They'd just be like rubbing on you.
In this, he said 100 angry cats. So Simon is specifying that these cats have something fucking messed up about them.
They're just angry. They're just annoyed. They're not messed up.
So you said you'd fight the cats, but then you got upset about the tactics used to fight the cats.
Well, because I don't want to hear you being mean to cats.
How would you do it?
I would try to make friends with them, and I'd try to pet every one of them one by one so they feel loved.
If there was ever a day I wanted to be a cat, I would scratch your ass to death. You're extending your hand, and I'm just scratching it.
Like Pinky, the YouTube video.
Yeah, everybody drop what you're fucking doing right now. Don't listen.
Go watch Pinky the cat.
Just forget about the last 10 or 15 minutes of this podcast. Go to YouTube and type in Pinky the cat
Bar none, my favorite YouTube video of all time.
Yeah.
The primal scream of agony in the last few seconds.
Yeah, you brought that into my life. And I've showed it to other people like, you got to see this shit. You got to see this fucking pinky.
I watch it every few months just to remind myself. But
If it was 100 pinkies, I might think about that line.
Take it all back, yeah.
Do you love conspiracies, UFOs, ghosts, and all things bizarre?
Do you want to listen to two skeptics judge the plausibility of these offbeat topics?
Do you want the whole enchilada?
Then you, dear listener, need to hear Mr. Bunker's Conspiracy Time podcast.
Check out new episodes every Wednesday on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find fine podcasts.
Or log on to the World Wide Web with your favorite browser. Mine is Netscape, and hit up MrBunkersConspiracyTime.com.
Hey, we'll see you in the bunker.
Soren Peterson 99 on Instagram wants to know, what is the best currency? So Brandon, you are the currency expert. You've been on a lot of like daytime news shows talking about currency trends.
Yeah, I'm always on
so why don't
Fox,
you tell us?
Fox Business. Talking about the yen. You got your dollar, you got your loonies, your toonies, you got your pounds, your euros, your francs, your rupees, your yen,
Your shroot bucks.
your clams, yeah, bones. What else you got?
You got your body. You can sell your body.
You've suggested severed heads.
That's right, the severed head currency system. But the problem we never solved with the severed head currency is, where do you store them? Because if you're going to Walmart, you got to bring your severed heads with you to pay. So you got to find a wallet.
You know those big gym sacks that you put like 30 soccer balls in?
Yeah.
There you go.
But then you got to carry that everywhere. They got to rethink everything now. Got to rethink the car. There's got to be enough cargo space in your car.
Tie them to a four-wheeler.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say severed heads is the best currency.
The best currency might actually be like a cryptocurrency I've never heard of. Like one of those digital ones. Like not Bitcoin. I heard of Bitcoin.
But Brandon, that's the mark of the beast.
Fucking mark me with the beast if it gives me a bunch of dollars.
All right, we're going to end on a high note.
I've read this one. It's not a high note, Ewan.
Why don't you read it, Brandon? This is your type of question, so I want you to read it.
Ewan from Patreon asks, in a world, should I read it like this is a movie trailer?
Well, I'm taking notes.
All right.
I'm very focused. However feels natural to you.
In a world where liquids are replaced by peanut butter.
No, wait. That's a very interesting concept. Have we ever touched... I want to think about that for a minute.
We don't devote any more fucking thinking about it than we got to. In a world where liquids are replaced by peanut butter. Well, you say liquids. He said water. If 60% of our body's peanut butter, would that mean the blood would be peanut butter? So you would have to go get peanut butter transfusions, and there would be different peanut butter types. Now, Ewan, I will say, you finally got to a part of this fucking peanut butter conversation that I feel like I can weigh in on. And yes, there would be different peanut butter types.
Well, yeah, crunchy, creamy, natural,
organic. The kind with the extra omega-3 fatty acids. That's the kind I get.
Now, this is such a unique concept. I've never considered peanut butter replacing water before, so it's kind of blowing my mind. But in a world where all water has been replaced by peanut butter, so if you get a cut from, let's say you cut yourself while you're slicing vegetables on accident, then blood's not gushing out. It's slowly like...
You're not full of... When you cut yourself, fucking water doesn't come out. It's peanut butter with little blood cells stuck in it. You know what it is? It's like, what's that shit called where they mix peanut butter and jelly in the same jar? What's it called? Something weird like Slurples? What's that shit called? Smuckers?
Slurples?
You know what I'm talking about. Peanut...
Wait, were you reading your answer to the Pornhub search question?
Give me... And...
Slurples.
Jelly in the same jar. What's that shit called? It's got a name.
Smuckers. It's goobers.
Oh, yeah, it's goobers. Yeah, blood would just look like fucking goobers because it would have blood cells and peanut butter in it.
So think about it. When the peanut butter comes out of your body, you can just grab 2 pieces of bread, have yourself a sandwich right then and there. It'd be so much better. It'd be so much more efficient. than the bodies we have now,
Well,
where it was just boring old red blood coming out. Ooh.
yeah, and all these dumbass conversations about water being peanut butter. I never brought jelly into it. And honestly, it makes the whole conversation a lot more, pun intended, palatable.
Okay.
Have you ever eaten Nutella and peanut butter at the same time?
No, because I'm not an animal.
It's like an extremely fancy Reese's cup. And I'm not saying that marijuana had anything to do with it.
Oh.
But I have stood over an open jar of peanut butter and an open jar of Nutella with a spoon and been like, there's a bunch of fancy Reese's cups about to go into my mouth.
Did you just do it on the same spoon?
Yep. I knew I was the only one eating the peanut butter and I was the only one eating the Nutella. No one else
You broke so many rules in my house with that. You cannot double dip a spoon in the same jar. You can't.
But they were my jars. No one else is using those jars. I can be.
But then the next time you use the jar, you're still going to have your dried saliva germs all over the peanut butter inside.
Everybody's in bed. These are my jars of snacks. And I'm going to be as nasty as I want to be.
So I thought of an idea for a bonus episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do a Patreon bonus episode where we literally go through bullet by bullet point of all the different ways life would be different with peanut butter water. And we always kind of touch on it for a minute here, a minute there, but I want to do a deep dive on peanut butter.
All right,
and a deep dive into peanut butter water.
I'm going to have to get really drunk first or something.
All right, it's coming soon. I'm telling you. Well, we got through all the questions we're going to have time to get through. This has been a long one. Thank you for submitting your questions.
Yeah, thanks.
Most of you.
Those were great questions.
If we did not get to your question this time, we will do another Q&A episode, probably episode 130, 20 episodes from now is what I'm thinking.
Send me more Sopranos questions.
Yep, hit Brandon up at Sidekick Host on Twitter. You can also hit me up at TheNickAmel, EMEL on Twitter. And if you need more Q&A bullshit until the next one, we did do Q&A episodes on episode 25, 45, 65, and 85. So you can go listen to those. And there was definitely peanut butter as water talk on some of those.
You have that to look forward to.
Brandon, why don't you end with a plug for your recent guesting on the Just Conversation podcast?
Yeah, I was hosted on the Just Conversation podcast. He asked some really tough philosophical questions. We dug deep inside of my mind to explore my...
You dug deep inside your what?
My mind.
Your butt?
My mind.
Oh, mind.
To explore my values.
Same thing.
You can't explore my values through my butt. You can only explore my survival in a post-apocalyptic future.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's Just Conversation podcast. Should be coming out soon wherever you can get a podcast.
It is out. It came out this past week. You can find it on any podcast app. Just search for the Just Conversation podcast. And coming up, we got a few more guest appearances planned for December as well. Some of the podcasts we've even talked about today throughout this episode, we will be guesting on soon. So be on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, next week we'll be back with a traditional top 10-ish list for episode 111. Brandon, you have the list that time.
I do.
And we already know you haven't put a millisecond of thought into what you're going to do.
Hell
for that.
No.
So
I was too busy thinking about all the ways I was manly, and turns out I didn't fucking need to think of any of them. You rolled over immediately, which is why I'm the manly one.
Well, are you really the manly one, or is it me if I'm really both of us?
Well, I don't know what to think anymore.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.